Welcome to the Gospel Road, and we are going to look at 2 Kings chapter 7. But Elijah said, "Hear the word of the Lord. Thus says the Lord, tomorrow about this time, a shea of fine flour shall be sold for a shekel, and 2 shades barley for a shekel at the gate of Samaria." Then the captain on whose hand the king leaned said to the man of God, "If the Lord himself should make windows in heaven, could this thing be?" But he said, "You shall see with your own eyes, but you shall not eat of it." Now there were 4 men who were lepers at the entrance of the gate, and they said to come one another, "Why are we sitting here until we die? If we say, 'Let us enter the city,' the famine is in the city, and we shall die there. And if we sit here, we die also. So now come, let us go over to the camp of the Syrians. If they spare our lives, we shall live. If they kill us, we shall die." So they arose at twilight to go to the camp of the Syrians. But when they came to the edge of the camp of the Syrians, behold, there was no one there. For the Lord had made the army of the Syrians hear the sound of chariots and of horses, the sound of the great army, so that they said to one another, "Behold, the king of Israel has hired against us the kings of the Hittites and the kings of Egypt to come against us." So they fled away in the twilight and abandoned their tents, their horses, their donkeys, leaving the camp as it was, and fled for their lives. And when these lepers came to the edge of the camp, they went into a tent and ate and drank, and they carried off silver and gold, clothing, and went and hid them. They came back and entered another tent, carried off things from it, and went and hid them. Then they said to one another, "We are not doing right. This day is the day of good news. If we are silent and wait until morning light, punishment will overtake us. Now therefore, come, let us go and tell the king's household." So they came and called the gatekeepers of the city and told them, "We came to the camp of the Syrians, and behold, there was no one there to be seen or heard there, nothing but the horses tied and the donkeys tied in the tents as they were." Then the gatekeepers called out, and it was told within the king's household. And the king rose in the night and said to his servants, "I will tell you what the Syrians have done to us. They know we are hungry. Therefore they have gone out of the camp to hide themselves in open country, thinking, when they come out of the city, we shall take them alive and get into the city." And one of the servants said, "Let some men take 5 of the reigning horses. See that those who are left here will flare like the whole multitude of Israel, who have already perished. Let us send and see." So they took 2 horsemen, and the king sent them after the army of the Syrians, saying, "Go and see." So they went after them as far as the Jordan, and behold, as all the way was littered with garments and equipment that the Syrians had thrown away in their haste. And the messengers returned and told the king. Then the people went out and plundered the camp of the Syrians. So a shea of flour, fine flour, was sold for a shekel, and 2 sheaves of barley for a shekel, according to the word of the Lord. Now the king had appointed the captain, on whose hand he leaned, to have charge of the gate. And the people trampled him in the gate, and so he died, as the man of God had said when the king came down to him. For when the man of God has said to the king, 2 sheaves of barley shall be sold for a shekel, and a shea of flour, fine flour, for a shekel, about this time tomorrow in the gate of Samaria, the captain had answered the man of God, "If the Lord himself should make windows in heaven, could such a thing be?" And he said to him, "You shall see it with your own eyes, but you shall not eat of it." And so it happened to him. The people trampled him to the gate, and he died. So you got 2 things that you're kind of getting in here. You've got Elijah talking about the selling of the flour and of the barley, and the captain not believing. So Elijah said, "You're not going to eat of this." And then at the end, he was trampled at the gate, and he didn't. So that's one piece, but that's not the part that I want to focus on. I want to focus on the part of the Syrians and how they fled. why do I want to look at that? Because this is something that really gets close to home to me. Because those Syrians, you can really look at them as our fears. When God is asking us to do something, or you're at a place of work where it's time to make that next step, and you have this fear that there's something around there that is going to stop you or end you, or just whatever that fear is. You remember what John F. Kennedy said, the only thing to fear is fear itself. Well, that's what this was. So we know that Samaria is in the war with the Syrians. So they are in a famine in Samaria. They're starving. Most likely the Syrians trying to starve them out, trying to get them to leave the city. Like the king said, when the lepers went to tell the king what they had found of the empty camp, he said, well, that's because they're just hiding. So the first part, they're being kept in the city because of fear, the fear of the Syrians camped outside of the city. As we read, the Syrians are gone. That fear really is not there. So too, then, is the next part of the fear that comes in, kind of like a doubting, saying, well, they're not there, but they're still hiding, waiting for us to come out so they can capture us alive. These are the things that happen when we let fear take over, when we let fear into our life, when we let it speak to us. And these are the things, and I'm just as guilty as this as anyone, because my self-esteem is honestly non-existent. I have none. And I've never really had the encouragement or the exhortation from others. Really, when I was actually talking with a guy earlier today, because an idea that I'm pitching and we're talking about and kind of pulling it all together. And what I said is, I've always felt being an outcast and not really being part of anything. And if I were to come up with something, I was never the one that they came in, grabbed me, said, that's a great idea, let's do this. And so when I have an idea and I want to step forward with something, it's not always the easiest thing for me to do. In fact, more often than not, I was usually ridiculed and it just really never went anywhere. So I have the fear of that Syrian camp in anything that I do. Now, a person can show me that the Syrians are gone, but then I come up with yet another fear or another excuse of why it probably just can't happen. Well, that's because they're just waiting for me. And I've done a lot of it to myself because of things that I've done, decisions that I've made, which we've all done that. But these are things that we have to get through. We have to get to the other side. And that's what we have to realize, that there's times when we need to take that step of faith and move towards what the plan is. Again, it doesn't matter. As we look at any of these things, it can be applied spiritually, it can be applied personally, it can be applied professionally. You're in your business and it's time to take that next step and you're afraid and you're needing to take that step of faith to grow your business, to take it to the next level. But as you see, I can do this, it's ready to go. And then you see something else just pop in and go, but if I do this, well, what about this? Now all of a sudden you still have more doubts coming into your mind. And we have to, kind of like what the king did when they sent out the horsemen to really see what's going on. This is where we have a team, and you find people around you that can really pick you up and they can help you through those times and go, look, it's not there. We can do this. There is a place that we can go. We can make that next step. And that's what you're looking. You're looking for the people to surround yourself to then help you get to that next level, to help you work through those fears. God is there to help you work through those fears. God is there to take you along the way. God is going to bring people into your life to help you, to really give you the encouragement that you need to get to that next level. I know I need it. And many people that I talk to, they also are looking for that encouragement, looking for someone to really grab them by the arm and come alongside them. In fact, I was talking with a gentleman earlier today about something that we're trying to get launched, and I was just saying that where I am right now in my life, and with me reading and studying and meditating on God, and I'm really feeling Him move and just kind of grabbing me by the arm, I said, man, come on, let's go. I'm ready, dude. We're going to take that step. We're moving forward. And that's what we need to do, and that's really what I need to do. I know we discussed this last week, that I had that session with a life coach, and we were talking about what our values were, and a strong value for me was personal development. And honestly, that's where I am. I want to become better. I want to learn more. And in the process of learning, I want to share that. And part of that development is to then get over those fears, to not look at all the little things that can go wrong, and to just take that step of faith, to start working towards what it is your plan is, what your desire is. In fact, I was also talking with someone a few weeks ago about faith without works is death. We have to have that faith. We have to have that step of faith. But once you make that step, you then have to act upon that faith. You have to take that next step so you're able to get what you need, what you're asking for in faith. So we need to look past that Syrian army, because most likely they're not even there. That army is long gone, and you are creating that obstacle in your own mind. And a couple things that have been used as illustrations to me in the past couple of weeks. One is the man that was on the roof. It was in a flood, and he's like, God, save me, and a boat comes by, and the guy says, hey, get in the boat, and we'll take you to dry land. And he goes, no, God's going to come by. I'm waiting on God. And the next person comes by, the water gets higher, and he says, come on, man, get on the boat. We get you to dry ground. The water's getting deeper. And he says, no, God will save me. He kept waiting on God to come. Finally, the water was deep enough, and he drowned, and he went to heaven, and he sees God, and he said, God, why didn't you? God looks at the guy and says, why are you here? And the guy says, well, God, I was waiting for you to come save me. And God said, I sent 2 boats to you, and you turned them down. I sent you someone to save you. So you weren't looking where you needed to look. The other one is about the guy who's asking God to win the lottery. God, just give me the numbers, God. I want to win the lottery, God. I need that money. I use that money, and we'll expand your kingdom, and I'll give here and give here and give here. And he kept asking and asking and asking. Finally, one day, God said, you ever going to buy a ticket? Where are you? Are you the guy? Are you the person waiting on the roof, waiting for God to come save you? Or are you the person asking for God to bless you financially, but you're not willing to buy that lottery ticket? You're not willing to make that step. You're not willing to take that step of faith and start looking for, we can sit here and say, God, I want to make a $60,000 a year job, but if you still keep sitting on your rear end, you never put in applications, you never try and better yourself so you can learn more. If you're not investing into yourself and making any moves, it's not going to happen. We have our own responsibilities. When we ask God for something, we ask and we move. We don't ask and just sit there and wait. If it was that easy, then why do we need anything? Why is everything the way it is? Why is it so hard? If we don't need to act upon our faith, we just have the faith and Pop, there's a big fried chicken sitting in front of you. God, I need to pay my truck payment. Pop, there's the money to pay your truck payment. There's the money to pay your rent. And you don't have to do anything but just sit on your rump. If that's the way it is, why doesn't it work that way? Because we have to have the faith. We have to make that step of faith. Once we make that step, we then need to act upon that faith. We need to start moving forward. We need to say, God, okay, this is what I need. So what are you going to do to open the door to bless me? So you start looking for those doors. You start finding those doors. You start moving towards the goal of what your desire is. 2 Kings chapter 7. Read it. Like I say, every time we do this, you need to read it. You need to educate yourself. You can't just sit here and listen to what I say. You can't just sit there and listen to what the pastor says, because at that point, you're just taking on their belief and what they see. But you need to see it. That means you're actually living someone else's belief. You're not living your belief. The army is gone. The army is not there. Make that step of faith. 2 Kings chapter 7. Thank you for listening to the Gospel Road. Have a great day. God bless.